informed voters. Local and state government has a major and direct impact on our daily lives, but it often receives little attention. Each of the 11 elected districts represents contiguous areas of the state, with District 11 including, I believe, most of Cuyahoga County and a small portion of Lake County.
That's my district.
Before we begin tonight's forum, we have a few rules. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement after a question and answer period. Time limits will be enforced. Our timer clock will be visible, as you can see. It'll be visible to the candidates on the screen. Only written questions will be accepted. If you quote Thompson, information is the currency of democracy. May you all be enriched by your participation here tonight. This evening are Rocky Neal, followed by Michelle Elba, followed by Merrill Johnson.
Okay, so for the first 2 minutes, each candidate gets to introduce themselves to the people. I am recording this because, quite frankly, like I said, this is an online forum for my district, which has an election this November in District 11 of Ohio for the Board of Education. Now, I listened to quite a bit of this before I realized that these people are only talking about public schools. They have no opinion so far on home educators. I home educate my children. I have been to court for home educating my children. So I have noticed that I've taken a serious interest in what's been going on politically on the homeschool front, because being that I was in the court system over homeschooling my children, home educating my children, I want to keep tabs on what's going on with legislation, especially since the last thing they passed was that I have to send in my notice of intent 2 weeks before school starts. But if we have a year-round school could start in July. So what is that about? So the wide variety of start dates is so ridiculous that to have an arbitrary start date and a deadline is absurd. Now, considering that I do have the freedom to homeschool, I homeschool my children from January to October, and I prefer to send in my notice of intent in November, because that's when my school year is actually over, and therefore I can actually have a true, complete evaluation of my children's accomplishments for the year. We do such a wide range of things, of activities for the year, that I want to make sure that they're actually being properly evaluated from start to finish of the year, especially if we haven't finished anything. So that really irks me, because I have to interrupt to send in some information to a evaluator. So now I'm kind of like, well, I need to reassess how to do the evaluation, or I need to get some people on the Board of Education to actually acknowledge the fact that home educators have more freedom than the public school and should not be held to the same standards of start and end dates as the public school. Period. And some of the comments that they were making was like, well, private schools and charter schools need to be held to the same standards as public schools, but public schools are funded through property taxes, which is already unconstitutional, which has already been established. Let me see if I can play a little bit of that. And let me fast forward through his thing there.
Provide a diversity of questions and ensure ability and appropriateness.
Ugh, did I rewind? I don't want
sufficient education in Ohio, which led
football. Next thing I know, the position open, I got appointed, and I ran for several years. I've been on the school, like I said, I've been on the school board for 12 years.
Yeah, he kind of just like babbled through that. It was his introduction.
I do have a job where I have to create my own income, and I had to take a couple years off just to make sure I get that going in the right direction. So I'm excited about this evening. I'm looking forward to it. I said my leadership and my experience, I think, will gives me some platitude of moving forward and doing this and doing a good job for the state. I think reaching out to the state and being involved with it will. I think I can help that. So I just want to thank everybody for allowing me to be a candidate's ballot. Alrighty.
Thank you. Ms. Elba, your opening statement.
Thank you so much, and congratulations for your. Michelle Elba. I am seeking the position of State School Board for District 11. I have served on the school board in Warrensville Heights for 8 years and the Northeast Regional Executive Committee for 4. Volunteer. I was the PTO president for 15 years and a PTO member for. I was a school board president for 2 years. I have been going to Washington, D.C. and Columbus for the last 6 years, advocating for public education. I have 2 daughters. One is a recent college graduate and the other's in her final year. And I too wanted to bring something to the school district. I wanted to make sure that all schools, all students get equity and equality education in Ohio. So I really just like to thank you for allowing me to come on and speak to continue to advocate for our students and parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elba. And Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. First, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this very important forum and for all of the work that you do. My name is Merle Johnson. I am presently a member of the State Board of Education, so I am the incumbent. I taught in Cleveland schools for 40 years, and I was director of community engagement for the Cleveland Teachers Union for 26 years. During my 19th year of teaching, there was a lawsuit filed on behalf of a young 15-year-old student entering high school named Nathan DeRolf. And that lawsuit was filed because of the lack of thorough and efficient education in Ohio, which led to a serious inequity in our state. That inequity is what really drives me as far as fighting for our young people. The Ohio Supreme Court ruled 4 times in 1997, 2001, and 2002 that the way Ohio funds its schools is unconstitutional because of the over-reliance on property taxes, which creates in which the students' quality of education is determined by their zip code. So because of that, we have a number of problems in this state, which is no fault of the students or the parents of those students. And so I am very concerned about it. That's why I ran 4 years ago, and that's why I am seeking re-election, because I want to continue to fight for the 1.8 million students in this state so that we can try to make sure they have a quality of education they deserve in spite of the lack of equity, which still has not been acted upon by the legislature. So I just like to say thank you for allowing me to be here, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you.
That inequity is exactly why I homeschool my children in the first place. I wanted to give my children a better education. I went to a private school, but of course my business went under in 2008, and my son was born in 2009, and I have yet to recover. And I've always wanted my children to have a private school education. I did my research, and the best way for them to get a private school education is for me to teach them classically. I've gotten all of the resources and things that I need to do so. We have regular conversations and forums where we have discussions and ask logical, rational questions to certain situations that are going on in our daily lives around us. I got those types of conversations in my private school, and I give those conversations to my children at home. Obviously, we don't just talk. We also have book work that we do because they obviously need to read and write. But for the most part, the inequity in funding is a serious, serious issue. Being that I do still live in low-income housing, sometimes I need assistance with computers. So, since funding for schools are based on property taxes, I don't own a home. So what? The majority of the people that live in apartments, they don't pay towards their school district? Is that what that means? That's a very good question. while I'm fighting for equality in school systems and wondering or not, well, I pay taxes, period, why can't I get assistance with school supplies and computer software and computers and printers and things like that? But on to the next.
We're now entering the question and answer period. You will have 1 minute, up to 1 minute, to answer the question. Each of you will get the same question, unless there is a question that is really specifically directed to someone. My process is to keep rotating. I always go in the same order, so you know when you're up next, and so on. And 1 minute for your answers. Public education has long been seen as the cornerstone of our democracy. Please articulate what you believe to be the purpose of public education and what makes it a democratic institution.
What makes public education a democratic institution? Here, let me break this down for you and see if you get any of these responses from these candidates. Public education is supposed to educate the citizenry. A well-informed citizenry is the heart of a democracy. If you have stupid, ill-informed, illogical, which means that they do not have proper critical thinking skills to evaluate, assess, and cipher through all of the candidates and information of which is provided to them, then they will make poor choices in the leaders that they elect to take care of the jobs that they deem most important to them, the citizens. The reason why I am watching this forum is because there is an election this year. I homeschool my children, and I want to make sure that I don't have to go through the court system again and be irritated by more people trying to manipulate me by false authority. Because I am a well-informed citizen. My zip code should not dictate whose authority I should be under.
You late. Gosh.
Why is it important to our democracy?
It creates, how can I say this? You got me on this one. Why is it important?
Okay, he's out. You can't come up with that answer right off the top of your head. What is school for? So you don't know what school is for. That's a problem.
To our democracy, because we need education to get better jobs, create better jobs.
Education means better jobs. Did he really just say that? Education means better jobs. In relation to what? Jobs do not dictate democracy. Jobs don't dictate democracy. Oh my God. We are in so much trouble. And you need to go and find this and watch it yourself, because I can't listen to these answers anymore because they all basically say the same thing. And it was very disheartening to listen to how they all flailed about in their responses and basically said the same thing. I understand you have a minute, but a well-informed citizenry, how could you not have that be the basis? How could you not know that right off the tip of your tongue?
1 minute to answer the question. Each of you will get the same question, unless there is a question that is specifically directed to someone. My process is...
Oh my gosh, how did I get...
So I too believe what Mr. Neal said. I think education is our cornerstone, and we want to, I believe, as far as we wanted to make sure that all students receive the education, whether they wanted to go on to college or into the workforce. And without the education, everyone will become at a standstill. Education is truly important.
Seriously, she asked, how is education important to democracy? Democracy. Not whether or not they can get a dang job. That is not the point of education. Oh my God.
As where when I was in school, a high school diploma was the thing to have. So I do believe that all schools, public, charter, and private schools, should be held to the same standards. I do not believe that funds should be taken away from public education for private or charter. I think that there needs to be a separate funding for that, because when you start...
I agree, but how do you separate the funding? Do you have a separate fund for education, for like a stipend or something that they have in California? Do you force them under an umbrella school? If they do need assistance, do you make it mandatory for them to be under an umbrella school, or can they still maintain that option if they can afford the materials themselves? I want to know how this could work. I mean, for low-income people, I think that getting a stipend or being under an umbrella school where you can get funding through the umbrella school for each of your children to receive $1,200 or $1,500 or $2,000 per semester or something like that, so that they can get the equipment that they need, or donate it back to the school. So if somebody wants extra or needs money for a field trip or something, they can take it.